4th meeting of the Raleigh Planning Commission. I am Nicole Bennett, Vice Chair. Chair Miller is absent and excused today. We begin each meeting with an opportunity for members of the public to speak on an item not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here today who would like to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will get started. Our first item is coming out of Committee of the Whole, and that is rezoning Z1424-3301 Tar Heel Clubhouse Road. This was voted out of Committee of the Whole with no recommendation, so we will ask staff for an update.
Good morning, everyone. So this is Z1424 for Tar Heel Clubhouse Road. Again, the request to rezone is approximately 78.9 acres from agricultural productive to residential 6 conditional use. The deadline for action is May 27th. The surrounding zoning is predominantly a mixture of AP and R4. The closest R6 zoning is across Beaver Dam Creek from the site. There's an aerial view of the site and the surrounding area. The area immediately surrounding the site is rural residential, and there is a low-scale residential neighborhood nearby. Beaver Dam Elementary is across the street, and the site also has proximity to the News River and Beaver Dam Creek. Here are 2 images of the site taken from Tar Heel Clubhouse Road. Here are additional images of the site. The first one looks towards the northeast of the site from Destiny Drive, and the second looks toward the southern portion of the site, south of Tar Heel Clubhouse Road. All but one condition are new since the last meeting, and the language of the other one has been revised. The revised conditions reduce the maximum number of units just slightly. Minimum and maximum lot sizes were added, and one condition stipulates that 40% of the lots will be over 7,000 square feet. At least 60% of open space is reserved for being adjacent to existing environmentally sensitive or undisturbed areas. There will be at least 2 usable amenities, such as a dog park or playground, and they included a pedestrian connection from the site to the Alvis Farm property to the northwest. The conditions still prohibit townhouse and apartment building types. This is just a comparison of the existing zoning versus the proposed zoning. The maximum number of units is quite larger than the proposed maximum number of units is quite larger than what is allowed under the existing zoning. The requested rezoning is inconsistent with the future land use map designation of rural residential. The guidance for rural residential states that the density for this designation should be limited to 1 unit per acre, so the proposed zoning condition number 1 exceeds what the future land use map recommends. Corresponding zoning districts for this designation include AP or R1. While the new conditions have improved consistency, increased the level of connectivity and the amount of open space, and facilitated a connection to the Greenway network through the Alvis Farm property, there are still issues causing the request to be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, such as the residual infrastructure issues, specifically those pertaining to fire response times, and inconsistency with the future land use map. Consistent policies include those listed on this slide and the next. Policies that have been added since the last meeting or underlined. They include policies related to connectivity and open space. Here are some additional consistent policies. Inconsistent policies include those listed here. These have not changed. Issues include inconsistency with the future land use map, a limit on the variety of housing types, impacts to fire response time and infrastructure, and isolation from jobs, services, and transit. There are no outstanding issues with this request. Again, the deadline for action is May 27th. Upcoming meetings occur on the 13th and 27th of May. This would require an amendment to the future land use map since the current designation does not support residential entitlement more than 1 unit per acre. The low-scale residential use designation is more appropriate to reflect this request. So if the rezoning is approved, the future land use map will be amended to low-scale residential for this site. The map will be made more reflective of proposed zoning entitlements of the subject site, and the long-range vision for this general area will become more suburban in nature rather than rural and agricultural.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We heard from the applicant at our committee meeting, but if it's okay with the commission, since we have a new member, I'll just have the applicant present, and we can hear members of the public if they're here to if they have comments on this case. Is that okay with the commission? Okay, thank you. In that case, then the applicant and those in support have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bennett. Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Marie Farmer. I'm with Parker Poe. And as you may recall from Committee of the Whole, a few weeks ago, my colleague Jamie Schwadler and I were recently brought on to assist Meritage with this rezoning. So Jamie and I do work for Meritage in several other jurisdictions. We did not become involved with this project until right before Committee of the Whole. So we are now up to speed, and we have made quite a few changes in terms of the conditions to this case over the last few weeks after coordinating with staff and meeting with City Parks and Rec. We would like to note that we did receive some minor additional comments from staff on the revised conditions this past Friday. So that was after the deadline for submitting the signed conditions, but we are working with staff on those and evaluating to incorporate into changes made before setting the public hearing before council. And those include minor changes like further specifying the timing mechanism for determining the location of the easement for the pedestrian connection. So as Aaron mentioned, this request is to rezone one parcel of land totaling approximately 77 acres from agriculture production to R6 with conditions to allow for a single-family home development. The property is located in northeast Raleigh, just west of 540 along Tar Heel Clubhouse Road, and is right next door to future public parkland at Alvis Farm and Beaver Dam Elementary School. This is an area the city has anticipated and seen lots of growth. This parcel is adjacent to primary corporate limits, and annexation will fill in a gap in existing city limits. Currently, the property is zoned agriculture production, which would allow for 21 single-family homes with a minimum of 125,000 square foot lots. In order to strike an appropriate balance between the rural residential flume designation and the comprehensive plans policies that address increasing the city's housing supply to address housing affordability, the applicant has requested a rezoning to R6 to allow for a single-family home development with a maximum of 225 homes. So that's roughly 3 units per acre versus the 1 unit per acre for agriculture tracts. And we have added conditions to address the square footage of the lots, so a minimum of 5,000 square foot lots and a maximum of 20,000 square foot lots. This request limits the density permitted while increasing the amount of open space provided to further consistency with that flume designation and the comprehensive plans policies, and for consistency with the surrounding area. So this request went before the Committee of the Whole because it was found inconsistent with that rural residential flume designation and with several comp plan policies related to growth and housing variety. Staff recommended several conditions to make the request more consistent, including addressing the minimum lot size permitted, increasing the amount of open space, and connecting to the Neuse River Greenway. We worked with staff, met with City Parks and Rec, and responded to each recommendation. We also digested the feedback from the committee and evaluated and responded to a suggestion about consolidating the open space on site. So again, as you can see, staff recommended adding a condition restricting the minimum lot size, and we added conditions addressing that. Staff recommended increasing the amount of open space, and so we responded by providing a minimum of 20% of the net area as open area. Staff also recommended providing for a connection to the Greenway, and the Committee of the Whole requested a public benefit for this project. And so, again, we met with Parks and Rec and responded by providing that pedestrian connection from the site's internal network to the city's Alvis Farm property to facilitate that connection. Now, we will continue working with City Parks and Rec on that connection, as there currently is not a park plan for Alvis Farm, and so the exact location of that Greenway connection still needs to be determined. And finally, the Committee of the Whole, at the Committee of the Whole, there was a recommendation about creating different zones to consolidate open space. So something we heard was potentially seeing more density to the north of Tar Heel Clubhouse Road and more of that open space to the south. And so we added a condition that provides at least 60% of the open area will be adjacent to existing environmentally sensitive and or undisturbed areas surrounding the development. And so the result of that will be more of that open space that you see to the south near Beaver Dam Lake. It will be consolidated in that area. As it relates to the future land use map, again, this parcel is within the rural residential, but as you can see, it is only within a small node of rural residential that is surrounded by low-density residential, which is the proposed amended designation for this parcel, consistent with the character and pattern of development in this area. As noted in the staff report, a district that would be consistent with this designation would be R1, but that would allow for large lot, single-family homes where prices can get extremely expensive. Instead, the applicant has proposed R6 at roughly 3 units per acre, which will again strike that balance of increasing housing supply and allowing for more affordable homes while still being consistent with the surrounding area. In response to feedback on the flume designation, however, and from feedback from neighbors, the applicant did add conditions to address this designation, including reducing the permitted density and limiting the building types to single family. The applicant also added a condition that will guarantee some larger lots to make the request more consistent with that rural residential designation. So again, that at least 40% will exceed 7,000 square feet. The staff report indicates that some of the inconsistency with the comp plan is related to policies that address growth, with the concern being the fire department's ability to serve this area. But again, this parcel is not only within the ETJ, but directly adjacent to the city's primary corporate limits and sandwiched between properties within city limits. Annexation here would therefore fill in a gap in an area that is already being served. As you can see from the image on the left, this parcel is near fire departments number 21 and 27. And again, because this is located between existing city limits are in gray in that image. The standards for response times already apply here and would be the same for this development as it already is for the immediately adjacent properties, including the elementary school that are already within city limits. Additionally, there is sufficient access to city water and gravity sewer to the southern portion of the property. There are 2 vision themes and now 9 key policies that this request is consistent with, as Aaron had noted. There are now 3 additional policies related to connectivity, open space, and greenway-oriented development that this request is now consistent with. And so although we did address every recommendation that has been made to align the case more closely with the comprehensive plan than it was at Committee of the Whole, including becoming consistent with 3 new policies, the overall consistency analysis appears to generally remain the same. However, this proposal has been found consistent with more policies than inconsistent, and the request for that low-density residential is compatible with the vast majority of the surrounding area and pattern of growth this area has seen in the last 4 to 5 years. The applicant addressed every recommendation in the hopes of tipping that scale, and although the overall analysis has not changed, the proposal has changed substantially, is consistent with the comprehensive plan and flume in many ways, and the public benefits will hopefully outweigh any of those remaining inconsistencies. So this proposal will increase the city's housing supply in an area the city has anticipated and seen growth, again, being located next to a future public park and an elementary school that is under capacity. And it will provide housing near recreational opportunities. There's also sufficient access to water and sewer, and it provides a connection to the Greenway system. So we thank you so much for your time, and we will be available to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak in support of this case? Okay, we'll turn to those opposed. If anyone's here to speak in opposition, you have 10 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll bring it back to the table. May I ask staff to just pull back up the new conditions, please, so we didn't have those at committee of the whole. And also, I will note that this was the one bite at the apple, so the applicant can't change conditions anymore for us. They can change them as they go to city council. So with that, do we have questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Peeler.
I missed the committee of the whole, so apologies if this was talked about there, but this mentions environmentally sensitive areas. And I'm just curious what exactly that refers to. Is it talking about the vicinity to Beaver Dam Creek and the Neuse River, or is there something specific on the site that is considered environmentally sensitive? And I think that's for staff or the applicant.
Yes, so there is, and I won't mess with this, but if you remember from the image of the site, there is Beaver Dam Lake that is to the south. So that is one of the references when we were crafting the condition about at least 60% of that open area being adjacent to undisturbed or environmentally sensitive. That was one of the intentions there. There is also a water feature on the northern portion of the site. There's an existing pond, and so we have every intention of preserving that on site, and that is likely where the connection, the pedestrian connection to the Greenway will be located. So those were the features that we had in mind.
Thanks.
Other questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, could I? Is
Sure.
it okay if no one else? Yeah, I plan to vote against this. I think, it's inconsistent with the comp plan, and I do want to push back a little bit that it is within annexed areas. I know it is, Beaver Dam Elementary is right on the other side, but there is nothing else annexed in any direction that's residential, that's adjacent. Now, there is that large development to the southeast, but that is not adjacent. It's on the other side of Beaver Dam Lake. I think we, at this table, need to be really cognizant of expanding Raleigh's borders to the east, especially when it's zoned agriculture production like this, contributing to our sprawl, it's contributing to our traffic problem. It's very unlikely that to a single-family development like this, there will ever be sufficient public transit to this area. We've had a lot of cases like this recently, and not all of them are completely inconsistent with the comp plan. Some of them are deemed not even partially inconsistent, but I think we should be careful with how we proceed with annexations like this and contributing to our sprawl. So for that reason, I've got to vote against it.
Thank you, Commissioner Peeler. Other questions or comments? Okay, well then, Commissioner O'Haver?
I guess, again, I like to sort of wait till everybody else comments, but it looks like nobody's going to say anything. I was struggling with this a little bit at Committee of the Whole, but appreciate Commissioner Peeler's comments, but we're inside 540. We're adjacent to an elementary school. Development is heading this way. Certainly remembering Commissioner Otwell's comment at Committee of the Whole on this type of development's ROI on infrastructure. Again, 1 unit per acre versus 3 units per acre minimizes that. I think the applicant's gone a long way to put conditions in to preserve and protect some of those environmental areas. We need more housing. Surely we want to keep densifying the core, but putting 540 around the city was a long-range plan, and I'm comfortable voting in favor for this rezoning.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Haver. Commissioner Omakaye?
I was just looking at it, and it seems like it's very inconsistent with both of our comp plan. It seems like it's very inconsistent with both our comp plan and our future land use map. We do need to be really careful about rezoning spaces that are agricultural. Every place doesn't need to be overdeveloped, in my opinion. I do see that there's an elementary school next to it, but with no space for affordability, I wonder how much parents would be able to afford to stay next to the elementary school. Also, I think it's one of my issues is how far away it is from transit and the ability for any firefighter access to the location. So I would not be voting for this.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Otwell?
Sure. I think that this is well outside the plans the city set forth in the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. I think low-density development has a negative return on investment for our infrastructure, and it just, if this area is not appropriate for rural zoning, then where in the city in our plans is it appropriate? And for that reason, I move to recommend adoption of the proposed consistency statement dated April 22nd, 2025, contained in the agenda materials, and to recommend denial of the zoning amendment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Peeler has seconded the motion. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? Motion fails. Do we have another motion?
Was it 4?
No, it was 4. Let's do it again. All those in favor of recommending denial? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time, I think it was 4 before. So we have 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's different. So, motion passes 5-4. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business. We have rezoning Z1624 Globe Road. We will have a presentation from staff.
Chair Bennett, if I may, would it be appropriate to hear new business 1 and 2 at the same time? They're adjacent. They're asking for the same thing. They have the same owners.
Staff's prepared a joint presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will hear rezoning Z1624 and Z625. Before we start, I'm sorry, Matthew, I did not, I got frazzled with the count changing last time. I didn't get the, everyone voting against. Council often asks why there is dissent. So those who voted against the motion, would you like to state your reasons why for the record?
I'll start just because I'll just say the comments I made during the hearing are the reasons I voted against.
Thank you, Commissioner Haver. Commissioner Fox.
The parcel is located within the ETJ, which means it was anticipated to be annexed at some time. It's also adjacent to an elementary school. Those are my reasons.
Thank you.
I'm always looking to add to the housing supply.
Thank you.
And I don't think that this is intended to be used agriculturally. It's already intended to be built out for residences, so I don't see an issue with increasing the number on it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Okay, Matthew, we will move to new business rezoning Z1624 and Z625.
Good morning, Vice Chair Bennett, members of the Planning Commission, Matthew Burns of Planning and Development. So as you mentioned and know, these are two separate requests, but they are very similar. So I'll be presenting on them simultaneously, and you'll need to have two separate hearings for each rezoning. So here's both existing zoning maps for the sites. So the requests are to rezone 0.93 acres and 0.95 acres from Durham Rural Residential to City of Raleigh Residential 6 conditional use. These properties are in Durham County, but they're eligible for annexation into the City of Raleigh per our annexation agreement with Durham. And the applicants have submitted annexation requests to accompany their rezonings. And your deadline for action is June 21st for each of these cases. So zoning in the area is predominantly residential with clusters of R4, R6, and Durham rural residential. And a little bit farther to the northwest and north are some other Durham zoning districts, including planned development residential and industrial, light industrial. So here's a view of the site. The thick blue line is the boundary between Durham and Wake counties. The site is fairly close to Briar Creek to the southeast, and to the west is largely low and moderate scale residential uses, including those PDs. Here's a blown up view of the site. So there are several subdivisions associated with the Briar Creek Country Club to the east of Globe Road. And here are some views of the sites along Globe Road. So both of these cases have identical conditions. They both would limit the number of principal residential dwellings to 1 and require a 50-foot principal building setback from Globe Road. So again, the maximum number of units that they're proposing is 1. So rezoning from the Durham zoning district to City of Raleigh would permit additional housing types and would allow less restrictive setbacks. The site has a below average walk score, below average bike score, relatively low transportation costs, and high access to jobs. But I'll note that the site is not served by any transit. So here is the map from the last version of the City of Raleigh annexation agreement with the City of Durham. You can see there on the lower left the location of the site. And the way this annexation agreement works is anything east of that boundary line, even though it's in Durham County, is eligible to come into the city. And here's just a slightly more zoomed in version of that map showing Raleigh and Durham's city limits. The request would add to the housing supply, does not include subsidized units, permits a variety of housing types, allows smaller units, and is not within walking distance of transit. Area residents are more likely to be racial minorities than the city average, less likely to be low income, and the cost of rent has increased 47% since 2020, which is higher than the citywide average. So the requested R6 CU districts are consistent with the low-scale residential designation, and frontages cannot be applied to residential districts. So the requests are consistent with the comprehensive plan and consistent with the future land use map. And consistent policies are related to location of growth, reinforcing the urban pattern, and cross-jurisdictional coordination for annexations and growth. Inconsistent policies identified are related to fire response times. So there are no outstanding issues, and your deadline for action is June 21st. And just a general note that the City Council will have to vote on annexation prior to rezoning approval. please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. We will now turn to the applicant and all those in support. And we have to do these separately, right? Didn't I hear you say? Okay, so we'll begin with Z1624, and you have 10 minutes.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm Keith Larson, Moonlight Electric and Construction, and I'm here to represent the both individual owners of each lot. And not sure I can add much more to what Matthew already brought to the council in the review. The intent is for them to develop this into single-family housing with the potential of possibly one detached building, possibly a detached garage and/or a rec room or something of that nature. They have gone through this process of getting it recombined through the city of Durham and then have it so that both properties have frontal access to Globe Road. And the intent was to provide, if it gets annexation and rezoning gets approved, to connect to the city's existing sewer and water, therefore not having the property actually have to apply for a septic tank and private wells. That too would be an advantage environmentally and also would be helpful and beneficial to the homeowners. Other than that, any questions anybody might have that has not been addressed?
Thank you. We'll do our questions in just a minute. Is anyone else here to speak in support of Z1624? Seeing none?
Nope.
Did I see someone? Oh, seeing none, all those in opposition also have 10 minutes. Is anyone here to speak against this application? Okay, we will bring it to the table for questions and comments from commissioners. This is Z1624. Okay, we're very quiet today. If we have no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Otwell?
Got them all lined up today. All right. With regards to Z1624, I move to recommend adoption of the proposed consistency statement dated April 22nd, 2025, contained in the agenda materials, and to recommend approval of the zoning amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Otwell, a second from Commissioner Fox. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving to Z625 Globe Road, the applicant and those in support have a total of 10 minutes.
I can reiterate everything I said earlier. To recap, the intent is to have the property as a single-family residence, and through the process of rezoning and hopefully gainful annexation by the city of Raleigh, and to connect at their expense to the city water and sewer system in order to alleviate, and the original intent for annexation was they did not want to have to put a private well and a septic system in the area, considering all the other development around them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in support? Anyone here to speak in opposition? You have 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Bringing it to the table, do we have any questions or comments for this one? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Fox?
In regards to case Z625, I move to recommend adoption of the proposed consistency statement dated April 22nd, 2025, contained in the agenda materials, and to recommend approval of the zoning amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox made the motion. Commissioner McCrimmon seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving to item
Thank
D.
you.
You're welcome. Moving to item D3, rezoning Z4424 Avent Ferry Road. We will receive a presentation from staff.
Good morning, all. So this is a request to rezone 4 parcels along Avent Ferry Road from R4 with special residential parking overlay and R6CU with the special residential parking overlay to a unified R6CU with that same overlay. And your deadline for action is June 21st. So zoning in the area includes residential and mixed uses. I'll note that the portion of the site that is zoned R6CU is in the east within that gray boundary, and that is associated with a previous rezoning case from 2020. And the single parcel that's zoned R4, that's a little bit to the west, would be brought in to allow for a single development. So this site is along Avent Ferry Road, and it is across from the Avent Ferry Shopping Center, which features a DMV and a food line. And generally in the area, with the exception of that Avent Ferry Shopping Center, are residential uses. Here are some views of the site along Avent Ferry Road. And the applicant is proposing 7 zoning conditions. So the proposed conditions would limit the maximum number of bedrooms per dwelling unit to 3, limit maximum building height to no more than 2 stories, require 1 row of structures aligned and facing Avent Ferry to have a minimum setback of 20 feet, require a 6-foot fence be maintained along the rear property line, which could be an existing fence, limit the maximum number of surface parking spaces to 45, excluding spaces in garages and driveways, prohibit the apartment building type, and limit the maximum number of dwelling units to 19. So the request would allow for a moderate increase in entitlement. And the site has an above average rock score, transit score, bike score, a below average transportation costs, and above average access to jobs. The site has convenient access to 2 Go Raleigh bus routes, Route 11, Buck Jones, and, Route 11L, Buck Jones, and Route 11, Avent Ferry, with stops about 600 feet east of the site. And the site also has convenient access to 3 Wolf Line routes. So the request would add to the housing supply, does not include subsidized units, permits a variety of housing types, allows smaller units, and is within walking distance of transit. Area residents are less likely to be racial minorities compared to the city average. They're more likely to be low income, and the cost of rent has increased 32% since 2016, which is higher than the citywide average. And I'll note that this is an area where there are a lot of students, which may explain part of that discrepancy with the income. So the requested district is consistent with the low-scale residential future land use category, and zoning frontages cannot be applied to a residential district. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. Consistent policies are related to neighborhood scale housing, compact development, and housing variety. And inconsistent policies are related to fire service response. There are now no outstanding issues, and your deadline for action is June 21st. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. We will now turn to public comment. The applicant and all those in support have a total of 10 minutes.
Good morning, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Isabel Maddox, attorney for the applicant. Here with me today is Sammy Stevens, who is representing the ownership and developer group. And I want to first say that Mr. Stevens has done a lot of things in the NC State area of town, but he takes a real interest in getting into the neighborhood and hearing what they have to say and really trying to respond to those concerns in a way that gives him most of what he wants and gives them most of what they need. So I think he does a good job with that, and I think this is a perfect example of that. So a fairly small request to go from R4 with special residential parking overlay to R6. This is 4 parcels comprising about 2 acres, 3 pretty rectangular lots and 1 a little bit odd-shaped. There was a zoning case back in 2020, I think, for 3 of these lots. In this case, originally had one of these lots plus one to the rear on Octavia. After meeting with the neighbors back more in the neighborhood were upset about the possibility of townhouses densifying, and so made the decision to take the Octavia parcel out and then come back in and grab those lots had recently been rezoned to put them all in one case so they'd have the same conditions. So that's kind of the genesis of the case, to have these 4 lots. We're, right across the street from the shopping center on Avent Ferry, great access to jobs, transit, NC State, et cetera. That can show you these 3 lots were just recently rezoned to R6. We basically brought those back in with similar conditions as they had in 06, and then added this one, and we took out that one. So just to give you the background. Matthew went through the conditions pretty well. There are several that really address neighborhood concerns, keeping the 4-bedroom units out, 2 stories in height, which is unusual to limit it that much, but they wanted it more consistent with their neighborhood, the lower scales. The neighborhood to the rear is mostly single family, but tends to be 1, 1.5, 2 stories, that kind of thing. Maximum of 19 units. I think now you could probably do 12, so it's not a huge jump. I think that just to sort of summarize this case, we did originally include the Octavia parcel, but dropped that in response to neighborhood concerns. Now all the parcels, all front on transit emphasis corridor. We're adding more housing units close to transit, close to goods and services, jobs. But we are, in response to neighborhood concerns, restricting the number of stories, restricting the number of bedrooms per unit, excluding the apartment building type, and requiring a fence to create a buffer between these townhouse units is what they'll be, and the single family to the rear. It is consistent with the comp plan and the future land use map. And the 2, they're not even really issues, but there are 2 things that brought up in the staff report that I want to comment on. As to the urban form, we can't add a frontage here because it's R- zoning, it's not mixed use zoning. However, one of the conditions that we include is a 20-foot setback along Avent Ferry, and that setback will allow an urban frontage to be mimicked. And given the tightness of the site, that set will probably build right up to that setback. So that'll mimic, the various urban frontages, which some of which require a 20-foot setback. So I think that gets you pretty close to urban frontage. As to the inconsistency on the fire response, the only issue there was a second ladder truck could not get there within 8 minutes. It took 9. There are several fire stations in proximity. So here we were the 2-story height limit. We don't really even need the ladders. So this comment seems to be coming up more and more in cases. If you can't serve this location in Raleigh for fire, you've got a bigger problem than this little project. But I do think in this particular case, we don't really even need that second ladder truck. So anyway, I think we really should be good on that. And I know the fire department is wanting to improve their level of service and increase their budget to get more and better equipment, and certainly we support that. But anyway, I think that's kind of concludes our case. Certainly, I'm available to answer any questions, as is Mr. Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Is there anyone else here to speak in support of this case? Seeing none, those in opposition have a total of 10 minutes. Seeing none, we will bring it back to the table for questions and comments from the commissioners. I'm just going to say that I really appreciate the applicant's responsiveness to neighbor concerns. I'm a big proponent of community engagement and responding to the community, but I don't love these conditions. I don't know that I was here when this was rezoned. I can't imagine that I would have voted for this, but this is like along a transit corridor, a frequent transit area, and I feel like we have these restrictive conditions. Again, I understand being responsive to neighbors, but I don't love the conditions. It seems like restricting the bedrooms is trying to restrict the possibility of student housing, which I understand, but this is in an area with a lot of students. I really don't like fences separating people from people. If this were some sort of commercial or industrial complex, something, that could be harmful, I could say, okay, I understand. But just because people in single-family homes want to be separated from people in townhouses, that bothers me. And I understand that these were conditions in the previous rezoning, so you're just making this consistent. I have an issue with the conditions, so I just wanted to say that to start. Anyone else have questions or comments? Commissioner Fox.
I have a question. It kind of gets to what you were mentioning, Commissioner Bennett. It's a clarifying question for staff. When there's a limitation on the number of units, a development could not then take advantage of the frequent transit development option. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So then I echo and agree with your thoughts there.
Can you say that again?
The frequent transit development option, which allows an increase in density with some affordability included, by limiting the number of units on this project, they're limiting the ability to use the FTDO option. So again, it's a great location for housing.
Yes.
Based on its proximity to amenities, services, and transit. It is quite restrictive, but it's not inconsistent. So at the appropriate time, I would be ready to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Are there other questions or comments? Commissioner Omakaye, and then Commissioner
Is there
Peeler.
any idea of how much this project would cost or how much it would go for?
You mean the per unit? There's no decision right at this point whether these will be for sale or for rent. I would say towns would be, if they were for sale, in Raleigh, it's probably hard to get under 400. But that's sort of down the road, and he hasn't decided whether, I'll let Sammy speak to that if he wants to, kind of not clear what the, how these things are going to be either leased or sold. But so I don't know, but I'm just thinking, generally speaking, it's hard to find townhouses, new townhouses in Raleigh for less than about $400,000. You have a thought on that?
Yeah, good morning, members. Yeah, we're anticipating $400,000 range. I think it wasn't mentioned, but because the 4 combined lots are equivalent to 2.02 acres, we do have an incredibly large tree protection area included. So general setbacks, 20 foot or less. We have actually 65 feet of setback for probably half the property from the neighborhood behind, and I think that's one thing they really wanted. The 6-foot fence actually was mentioned in our most recent meeting with the city. So we've met with all departments of the city multiple times, and they had mentioned the 6-foot fence, but it's almost a natural tree-infested area, so it's almost not going to be visible because there's a lot of natural growth that's going to be retained in that area. So it's not going to look like kind of like in a cookie cutter neighborhood where you see fence, fence, fence. It's actually just going to be hidden in the back just to offer a little more privacy for the folks behind it. The elevations of the neighborhood behind these four properties are incredibly elevated. So the neighborhood behind kind of elevates substantially, 20, 30, 40 feet. So this project will actually kind of almost fit in a valley. Going with the 2 stories is just keeping everything really tight. I think if we looked at elevations of houses behind and going back even 2 houses, they're going to be substantially higher than what I'm developing. I met with the neighborhood 5 times. I met in kitchens, went over what exactly would please them, and this is a plan that they fully supported based on give and take, not doing 3 stories, putting in a real nice tree protection area. I've built a couple projects on the same street closer to campus. I always use stone on the exterior and make them look really pretty and enhance the neighborhoods that they're nearby. I'm not the siding and walk-away developer, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Peeler. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Omakaya, were you done with your?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that it's great adding to the housing in that space. It does, I don't like the conditions also because I think that it restricts the kind of housing need that's out there. It is close to jobs, but I doubt anybody who is going to be spending $400,000 on a townhome is going to be working at Food Lion. But I also do think that there's elements that I like about it also. Just want to state that.
Thank you. Commissioner Peeler?
Question for the applicant. I'm looking at IMAPs. It looks like you own 2 of the properties and someone else owns the
Yeah,
other
me
2?
and my partners own the 3 that are connected, correct.
Gotcha. Is it currently inhabited by long-term renters?
No, year to year.
Yeah, okay, but it's not like short-term rental.
Right.
It's year-to-year lease. Has it historically been students or not students?
So one house was lived with the same folks since they built it, but they passed away. So I would say it's been more rented out to young adults.
Okay.
Usually people that are just graduated and working.
And just if I can explain the reason why I'm asking, I think it's been a while since we had a case here where we were rezoning what are essentially long-term rental stock. I know it's your prerogative to do that because you own it, and I know that's not part of our comp plan currently. My hope is that our future comp plan will include something about analyzing whether rezoned properties have long-term tenants in it. We talk a lot about increasing the housing supply, slowing displacement. I think that's something to consider when we rezone anything, if there's current long-term tenants. As you know, as many of y'all know, there's basically no tenant rights in North Carolina. So it makes it hard for people to stay in rental housing in Raleigh. And housing in Raleigh is moving away from home ownership and towards tenancy. So this is going to get harder. I just hope we can think about that going forward. Maybe we can talk about it at the retreat once we have the retreat. And I hope to give some feedback to our new comp plan about that. But it's just something I want to point out because it doesn't show up in our analysis of the comp plan. And I do think it's pretty important.
Thank you, Commissioner Peeler. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Burnett.
For the applicant, is there any overt desire for the properties to be for students or young professionals, or is it pretty much, I guess, up in the air right now?
It's difficult to tell, but we did put in garages and driveways, so I think that's a little more attractive to somebody who's a young professional possibly, or somebody who's looking for a place that, they can put their stuff and not just come outside. It's difficult to tell. I would think that it may be a mix of both.
Sure.
And forgive my lack of knowledge on it. When was the last community meeting?
6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, so real recent, yeah.
It's pretty, I'd say in February.
Were there any new concerns at the most recent one that didn't pop up at the previous one?
No, we had unanimous support. Like I said, I've been meeting with these folks, I think, for 3 or 4 years or 5 years, so kind of know them. I know what they wanted. They're the ones that requested that one of the gentlemen was asked about keeping it 3 bedrooms. I thought that was a little awkward, but I did it because I felt like I could still get this project to work. But we, Like I said, there will be a lot of undisturbed area in the very back. The fence concern, I don't even think we're going to see the fence. I think if you looked on a Google map, you would see kind of what I'm talking about. It's going to have a lot of natural trees staying in the back end, and I always do that on every project. I try to really insulate whatever's around it from it.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Haver, you look like you.
Well, I saw Commissioner Fox grab the microphone. I thought she was going to go next, but one question for staff and then a few comments. Just curious what, if any, requirements will be placed on the applicant along Avent Ferry Road when the site's developed?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What, if any, right-of-way improvements will be required when the applicant redevelops this project?
I will defer to transportation staff.
Good morning, Carter Robertson with Transportation. Right now, Avent Ferry is built out to its ultimate cross-section, 2-lane divided with that center turning lane. Also have the sidewalk and bike lanes in place. The only difference between what's there now and what's in our UDO is our UDO has the bike lanes raised behind the curb. So if this was determined to be Tier 3 development and site plan, that would be a change that would be required. But otherwise, it's already at the built-out cross-section.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. I feel for the applicant. I mean, I'm assuming, Ms. Maddox, that this is the project you've kept deferring to work with the
No, this is
neighbors?
not that
Okay.
one. This is not that one.
Well, just hearing, and that's fine, thank you. Hearing as often as you've met with them, I mean, it seems like people can't win for losing. I mean, on some cases, we're upset that they don't talk to the neighbors, and here we have a case where they've talked to the neighbors for years, and we still don't like the conditions. So at some point, I feel like we need to balance that. And not suggesting that my fellow commissioners should like the conditions, not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying I feel for the applicant here. I live in downtown Raleigh in a historic home, and townhomes are getting ready to be built catty corner to me. I have a fence. I'm not trying to keep my neighbors out. I just like I like my backyard and I like my fence. So I certainly hear your comment about fences, but I don't know that they always mean we're separating each other. Understand Commissioner Fox's concern about the frequent transit development, but again, if we don't vote these conditions in, we leave the existing zoning, we're not going to get frequent transit developments. It's not going to happen. So I appreciate that. Ms. Maddox, you know, one of my concerns, and I appreciate that y'all dealt with this, is when we are doing multifamily development adjacent to single family, just making sure that separation is there, and with 65 feet of tree protection, I appreciate that. I'm completely comfortable with that. I wish I would have that at my house when the townhomes get built behind me. Limiting to 2-story is unheard of in this situation. I really appreciate y'all doing that, and so I'm in support of that. And again, understanding some of my fellow commissioners' concerns about a $400,000 unit. Nobody's going to be working at the Food Lion, but young professionals need to live downtown as well. That helps build our community, and they'll certainly shop at the Food Lion. So I appreciate providing areas for young professionals as well. So I hear all my fellow commissioners' concerns, but I really appreciate what y'all have done, how long you've worked on this, and I'll plan to fully support this application.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Haver. I feel compelled to respond. First, I just want to say that I am not in any way penalizing the applicant for responding to community comment. I think it's great. But I think also, and I want to say this the right way, members of the public can sometimes have unreasonable requests. So just because someone in the public asks for it, we're here to determine if we think it's reasonable and in the best interest of the public and not someone living next to it. So I do always encourage community engagement, and I encourage being responsive to what the community is asking you for, but then we have to determine, are those reasonable requests? I also, if you have your own privacy fence, that's fine. I've had fences before, but I think it's different when we have a rezoning request that has a condition for a fence to separate an entire development from others. It doesn't feel right. And the applicant mentioned something about meeting with the city about the fence. Staff, did the city request the fence?
But so Timmons Engineering is the engineering company, and we've had paid for meetings with the city, and yeah, that was a request by one of the.
So if there is a tree buffer, which you've said you have a nice tree buffer, I don't mean to harp on the fence, but the fence bugs me. Why would there need to be a fence?
Well, I think it says that if there is a 6-foot fence and it's already there and everything's good, it stays. But if someone had a chain link fence and they prefer to have a wooden fence, that would be installed, if I understand that correctly. And one thing regarding the 2 floors is because of a tree protection area and such, there's limited parking that honestly 3 bedrooms work in this development because of the number of parking spaces available. If we tried to go 3 stories and add bedrooms, I think at that point it would create a parking situation, and it's real paramount to me that anything I build, the parking fits it absolutely correctly. I don't want to kind of take that out of whack where cars are in the wrong spots or parked over at the plaza. So I think we're really limited based on the large tree protection area and the setbacks to 2 stories. It seems to work.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Cochran, you look like you have something to say?
So I do support densifying this area. I think rezoning this to R6 makes sense here. But I want to echo Commissioner Bennett's concerns that this does seem to be intentionally excluding certain groups. And while I appreciate your attention to detail and trying to build the perfect housing for someone to buy and live in, I could see these as starter homes, which we know is in short supply. My concern is that if someone were to buy one of these and want to add a 4th bedroom onto the back of it, or just a 4th room in general, that by us putting these restrictions on it, we're actually building some homogeneity into it instead of diversifying.
Yes, that's a good point. The HOA will restrict something such as that. You wouldn't be able to add to any of the buildings. It would be in the HOA covenants that certain rules for everybody.
One more question. And is that an existing HOA, or is that one that you're going to put just for these units?
But I am an HOA president of a 29 townhome just down the street. So we'll have a management company. We'll have an HOA but it would be newly established HOA. That neighborhood as a whole doesn't have an HOA. It's an older
So we're adding another restriction?
No, I think you have to have an HOA when you have multiple owners in this situation.
Yeah, and it's pretty unlikely for a townhouse unit to add on to it because they are what they are, and they are almost always under an HOA that doesn't allow those kind of modifications to the building.
Thank you. Mr. Burns, you're standing up. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, just a quick comment. So the fence condition was not requested at the rezoning stage. However, I do know that this applicant has had a sketch plan review in the past and may have other plans in review. And there is an existing condition on the 3 lots that are currently zoned R6, which calls for a privacy fence.
Thank you. Commissioner Peeler?
I also support densifying this area. It's across from what's a mixed-use center. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, is it being an FTA, and we've talked about this in the past with FTAs. I don't think we've had one this year. A frequent transit area, which Raleigh has several corridors of. It has a density bonus. I do believe we could get to the density if we use the density bonus. And that, we've had plenty of cases like that. You're shaking your head no, but could we?
Are you?
Because the density that's put in the staff report, staff may correct me, but that is the density that's there without using density bonuses, correct? The number of, yes, it is. So there's, of course, more density than's allowed in that number if the density bonus is utilized anywhere where there's a frequent transit area, is my understanding. So I did want to throw that out there when we talk about the conditions and what's allowed there. Anywhere in Raleigh that's in an FTA, there is higher maximum units and higher usage that's available if the density bonus is utilized.
Assuming there aren't conditions limiting it.
Right, right.
Yeah, because I've had these properties for over 5 years combined, we've drawn up the actual, we've fit buildings in and what would fit with the tree protection area and what would fit for parking. And these 4 lots combined cannot yield anything beyond what we're currently doing. There's not even a foot available. So based on spending some pretty good money and hiring some pretty smart people, I'm hearing you and I understand what you're saying, but believe it or not, based on tree protection areas, setbacks, curbs so that the fire truck turnaround, having the correct curb angles for the fire trucks, the elevations of these 4 properties are pretty significant, from left to right, kind of sloping pretty significantly. So based on all these conditions, we are maxing out what this property can house, how many parking spots would make it efficient and effective for everybody. So we've explored every possibility while also communicating with the neighborhood behind. And what we're attempting is truly taking this property to the maximum it can yield.
Thank you. Commissioner Omakaye.
I just want to clarify my stance. I think, again, the outreach that you all have done to incorporate what the neighbors want to see on the property, every neighbor is different. I do have an issue, I guess, slightly with fences, I guess, but to me, it's more how it's implemented than anything. But it looks like you all are managing that. I make my comments of some of the comments that I feel like in the other side of this, because I like to treat these issues as isolated issues, whereas another developer may come and they could actually build more density or did not take some of the routes that you took. So the points that I make kind of stand, but I also understand that you want to build, young professionals need a place to stay. It is close to shopping centers and things of that nature. I was responding to the point of jobs, because I don't believe these people will be working across the street. However, that does not mean that they can't benefit from the commerce across the street. So I want to clarify my position, but I also want to state that if in the future another developer that didn't go through these things that you did in the same college area, that does require density and some measure of affordability for students, just making sure that the issues are looked at in their own right versus as a comprehensive situation.
Thank you.
I think it's entirely possible that one of these units gets rented by 3 students who,
A little bit of both.
yeah, there'd probably be a mix.
Other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay. Commissioner O'Haver, did you have something else to add?
I was going to make a motion.
I will entertain a motion.
In regards to case Z4424, after considering the policies, maps, and other materials included as part of the comprehensive plan, I recommend, y'all change this up a little bit. I have determined, or I feel that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans, and request the zoning case should be approved.
We have a motion by Commissioner O'Haver, a second by Commissioner Otwell. All those in favor? Okay, that's 9. All those opposed? That's me. Motion carries 9-1. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
8-1. I'm sorry, I'm not counting well today. I didn't have my Wheaties this morning. 8-1 with myself opposed. And I want to say, I'm not opposed to the development itself. I don't dislike the development itself. I speak a lot about equity, and I feel this is I feel that this can be interpreted as excluding certain people and groups. And so, consistent with the torch I always carry, I'm voting against it. I have every confidence that this will be approved by council and it's going to go through, but I just need to state on the record that I don't really love restricting the bedrooms or the fence. I understand restricting the apartment type to be consistent with the neighborhood, but the other two conditions just kind of give me a little bit of heartburn. Thank you.
We don't intend to restrict any groups.
Okay. Next item up is approval of minutes. Commissioner Peeler, do you need to leave? Okay.
Thank you.
We still have quorum, so we will look at the minutes from our April 8th Planning Commission meeting. Does anyone have any corrections, edits to those minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve them. Commissioner Fox?
Just a comment on page 2 regarding TC 1024. The motion was noted as being ununanimous, but the vote was 8-0. So there might just be a minor correction there.
Okay. Did you get that, Shanita? All right. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, if not, then I'll move to approve the April 8, 2025 Planning Commission minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Moving on to the report of the chair. The chair is absent and excused. Report from the members. I don't see anything on the agenda for Committee of the Whole, Bynum. So we will have no Committee of the Whole meeting this Thursday, April 24th. So you get that time back. I'd just like to welcome Commissioner Burnett. I wasn't here at the last meeting when you were officially welcomed, so welcome to the Planning Commission. Isn't this fun? Going down the line, Commissioner Otwell.
Thank you, Chair Bennett. No April meeting for the text change community, but we are expecting items on the May agenda. So I believe, let me double check my calendar. May 21st, no items pending yet, but we're expecting to have some items and hopefully a new member to the text change committee because I think we're down one right now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Burnett? Okay. Commissioner Fox?
There are no items pending for Strategic Planning Committee, so unless something changes, there will not be a May meeting.
Commissioner Omakaye?
Nothing.
Commissioner Cochran? It's like a test trying
No
to get
additional
everybody's
comments for me.
last name. Commissioner O'Haver?
No report.
Commissioner McCrimmon?
No report.
Okay, then we'll turn to the report of the Assistant Director.
I don't have anything to, I do have one thing to add beyond what's in my printed report, which is I have a question. Are you receiving emails from the Planning Commission distribution list? For example, you should have gotten the agenda last week. And maybe you would have seen an email. I know I saw one related to an old case, request Z5422 at Peace and West, a neighbor emailing you about a case, new request for that same address that has not yet been filed. Are you getting these emails on your PC email addresses? I know you're not, Mr. Burnett. You are, Commissioner Fox.
I am. I get two. I get every email twice.
Congratulations, so do I.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. I've tried to talk with them. And you all see the emails when I ask to add and remove folks.
Yes.
If you're getting the, well, because you're not on the list, but you have been added to the list, so.
I haven't received any emails
Gotta work on
or text unless they're individually sent.
Commissioner McCrimmon, do you get the emails? I do. Okay. And Mr. Haver, you do. So we're still working on Commissioners Cochran, Amakaye, and Burnett. I know you're not getting them because my request from last week is still open. So, and I made it again this morning because I'm just like, all right. So I'm going to keep working on that. I have asked for a list of all recipients so I can cross-check, make sure I have like spelling and dots and commas and such in the right order. So I apologize for the delay in getting information to you regularly.
Thank you, Bynum. Is there anything else? Well, if not, we stand adjourned.